And a good Sunday night, everyone. Thanks for joining for this Tropics After Dark. I hope everyone had a good 4th of July today. Had a lot of rain around the Kenner area today, but we still made the best out of it. And now we're back to tracking Elsa out there. It seems like we've been tracking this one for a long time, doesn't it? And it's really only been the last few days. So what's happening on the satellite? This will be a quick update tonight just to let y'all know what's going on. No major changes, but we'll take a look at some of the impacts that could be felt around Florida in the next couple of days or so heading into the beginning of this week. So notice here, good evening, Pam. Good to see you on here. Good evening, Lori from South Georgia. Thanks for joining. So right now we're looking at a storm that's been kind of struggling for the last couple of days to get its act back together. Remember, just about 48 hours ago, it was a hurricane, Category 1. Since then, it's struggled a bit with some of the interaction with the land masses, a little bit of shear, and it was moving very quickly. And so those three kind of combined to weaken it just a bit as it continued to push off in this direction. And it really hasn't gotten its act back together. That's a good thing. We didn't want to see a strong hurricane moving through the area and then possibly into the Gulf. So currently, the National Hurricane Center has Tropical Storm Elsa at 60 or 65 miles per hour tonight. The pressure is 1,004 millibars, so pressure's up a bit, and it's moving northwest at 15 miles per hour now, and again, it's rounding that high pressure to its north. So it was moving very quickly, and then we knew at some point when it was going to round that high pressure that we were going to see a little bit of a slowdown. So the high is somewhere around here right now. We had that dipping front kind of creating that weakness that it's going to kind of swing into. And that was always going to be the scenario. The question was a couple of days ago is where would that weakness be? How strong would the storm be at this time? And then, how high, how strong would that high pressure be to the north? How far west would it go? So right now we're still looking at potential around the Big Bend of Florida down to, close to Tampa as far as a landfall would go. But regardless of where landfall is going to be, we're still expecting some impacts even outside, where the actual center of circulation is going to end up going. What I'm talking about here is, the potential for some rainfall. Keep in mind, during the next couple of days, that yellow area, slight chance for some flash flooding. Again, not expecting a lot of rainfall from this. As you can see, the rain totals are still, about this yellow area here is 4 to 6 inches, and that would be kind of on the extreme western coast of Florida as that storm kind of hugs the coastline and moves up to the north. Those totals can be handled, right? That's not extreme by any means, but don't be surprised if maybe there are some pockets somewhere in here that maybe, get a little bit more than 6 inches, depending on where the bands are going to be setting up. So, they really just kind of put, if there's going to be a chance for flash flooding, it's going to be, in the peninsula. They're not really going on a big limb there. They just basically circled the whole Florida peninsula here and say, you have a chance to see some flash flooding with this. So there's going to be that opportunity, as we're going to have a storm there to the west. And of course, the eastern part of a tropical system is going to be the rainiest spot. And that's where most of Florida is going to be. So don't worry about where the center goes. Expect impacts along the west coast of Florida. And then inland, we'll see some rainfall as well with those, storms wrapping around. So as far as surge goes, if you remember last year, Ada, in the end of the season, I know a lot of folks around western Florida, Tampa Bay area, were surprised that it had a lot of flooding in that area. And, Tampa is very vulnerable, kind of like a New Orleans area and some other areas around the Gulf Coast where there's a lot of water. And so as this storm, depending on where it goes, you're going to be somewhere around here. I don't know where it's going to actually make landfall, but the point is that you're going to have kind of an onshore flow around the center of circulation. That could push water, notice in Tampa Bay, 2 to 4 feet. Of water rise there, and I expect that to be the case around a lot of the western side here, 1 to 3 feet down here, 1 to 2 feet along the, the Keys down there, but 2 to 4 feet closer to the Tampa Bay area. So although it won't be a strong storm, we're still going to have an onshore flow around the eastern side of a low, and that can push water in. So expect modest water rise along the western portion of the Florida coastline. Looking at the latest GFS, let's see if it's run. Here we go. This is the first time I'm seeing this one too. Let's switch it. This is tropicaltidbits.com and see what the latest GFS is saying. I doubt we'll see much change, but what we're seeing is here comes that tropical storm. This is around Tuesday now at noon. Very close to Tampa there, just south. And notice how it swings by maybe around Tampa. And that's what I was just saying. So even if it doesn't make landfall, if it just hugs the coast here as it's moving to the north, that could create quite a little bit of a impact here. Central Florida, all these areas here, you're going to have all those bands kind of wrapping in. You could see some rainfall along the eastern side. And then, of course, if this thing does hug the coast, you'll have water moving in this direction along the coast down here. And then when it moves north of Tampa, maybe around here is when you might have the water coming around like this. And then you have some water pushing into the bay at that point. Maybe not until it's actually north of the Tampa area. So something to keep in mind. What's big with storm surge is the direction of the water that's being pushed in. At one point, you could have water being pushed away, but when the storm goes north of you, then it gets pushed in. So something to keep in mind there. Notice the GFS model does push this in close to the Big Bend of Florida, somewhere around here. And it's been pretty consistent. That's a little bit, if you notice the National Hurricane Center's official cone, they have it going in a little bit east of where that is, but keep in mind that it could be more in this area, is where the GFS has been very persistent and stubborn with that. They have not changed a lot since the beginning. The GFS was always a lot more west of the Euro, and it looks like the GFS track is going to win out. But the Euro did realize early on that this thing might not be very strong. Remember, earlier the GFS said this could be a hurricane. Does not look like it's going to be the case right now, as it does still move over Cuba, and that's going to disrupt it even more. The European model early on said this thing's going to weaken. The track was not right with the European model. So with this one, the GFS looks like it won the battle with the track prediction. The European may have won the battle with the intensity prediction. So they kind of both did something a little bit right, and maybe both did something a little bit wrong with that. But here's a look at the cone. It does move over Cuba by tomorrow afternoon. That probably will disrupt the circulation a bit. It's back over water by tomorrow night and into Tuesday morning, through the Keys around Tuesday morning, and then hugging the Florida coast. Where does it make landfall? Not sure at this point, but it's going to be west of Florida. Does it go in here? Does it stay over water a little bit and go up here toward the Big Bend, or does it curve in a little bit sooner? Remember, Irma a few years ago was supposed to go up here, but it kind of maybe felt a little bit of land interaction and kind of got pulled in that direction sooner and went over right through Central Florida. So always a scenario there when a storm coming in from this trajectory that it turns east a little bit sooner than expected. So let's keep an eye on that potential scenario. So lots to talk about over the next couple of days as far as Elsa goes. As far as this gives you kind of an idea of how it might play out with the rainfall. Notice I'll put this into motion here. And as we go into tomorrow afternoon, this is about noontime. Notice what happens here. So you might have the low down here just coming off of Cuba at this point. But look at this. Some of these storms maybe ahead of it. Possibly some stronger storms moving to the north there in central or the southern part of Florida. And then you notice how they move to the north as the low comes up. Maybe a little bit of a squall here through central Florida around the Tampa area by tomorrow evening. And then we move in forward. So here comes the low at this point. This is late tomorrow night into Tuesday. And notice where all that mess is, right? East of where the center is going to be located. And so as it pushes north, look at all that nasty weather here along the extreme western portion of the Florida peninsula here, and then it hugs the coast. But you can see the point here. Multiple rounds of rainfall, have a few breaks in there, but the potential to have some pretty heavy rainfall on the eastern side. And then this model also indicating that it might make landfall here around the Big Bend of Florida and then push up to the north. So that's an idea of how it might play out. Of course, it might not be exact, but you saw that there is the potential for some of that rainfall on the eastern side and some of those squalls moving in from the the eastern side of the tropical system. So going to be looking out for the rainfall, going to be looking out for the storm surge as this thing moves in closer to the west coast of Florida. Flash flood potential, although it is going to be moving at a nice little clip, so I don't think when it's not going to be stalling out, and so that's something that's good, that it's not going to be moving very slow. But still, we got to keep a close eye on it as it moves in closer to Florida. So that's the latest on Elsa for tonight. No, Nita just saw that question. Really not possible for this thing to go toward Mississippi. That's just too far to the west. This thing's going to be riding the periphery of this high pressure, so it's not going to go that far to the west. Big Bend of Florida looks like a believable scenario, but like I said from the start, I think Panama City east, even Panama City is really an outlier solution right now, but the Big Bend down the western coast of Florida looks like the most likely scenario. So there we go. That's the latest on Elsa. I'll keep y'all posted on the page. So again, good thing it's not strengthening rapidly. It hasn't done that over the last 24 hours or so, and hopefully this thing stays kind of disorganized. Seeing some bubbles of convection there, but nothing looks like it's wrapping around any center. I couldn't tell you where the center is by looking at this satellite. That's always a good thing. If you can't pick out the center on an infrared satellite, you're in good shape, because normally with a well-formed hurricane, you'll have that donut look with the eye and all the storms wrapping around it. You don't see that right here. That's a good thing when it comes to the tropics. So I'll keep y'all posted. I'll look at this as we go into the overnight hours and into tomorrow and see what happens. Thanks for joining for Tropics After Dark. Everybody have a good rest of your 4th of July. I hope everyone had a good day today.